You are amid the huge final press tour of the huge final season of Stranger Things. So I guess my first question
Indeed.
for you is, how do you feel right now? What is this moment like for you, talking about this massive thing ending in your life?
It's pretty incredible. I love getting to talk about this show. I do it every day of my life, by choice, which is very nice. Uh, it's a pretty unreal experience getting to kind of I get to go to some of the most incredible places in the world just to talk about it, and
Mhm,
that's pretty amazing. I always have a blast doing it, and, yeah, I really wanna enjoy it as we can for this last go around because I don't think we'll be a part of anything
mhm,
this exciting as far as the press tour goes for a long time, and I don't think I'll ever be in something that makes quite as much of an impact the way Stranger Things has. So it's
mhm.
something to try to enjoy as much as I can for sure.
Well, you definitely should enjoy it as much as you can. But I also, one of the things that I think is so great about this show is that all of you, the crew of kids, are so, you're not kids anymore, you're adults, but you're
Yeah.
so young that the likelihood that you're going to be a part of something big in the future is pretty strong, in
Oh,
that
thanks. That's nice
you
of
have
you
a
to say.
lot of years ahead of you to do
Thank
something
you.
else that's also massive. So,
Oh, great. That's nice of
but
you to say.
on that, like, I mean, I guess for your family, it's really nice because they have a really big sort of, scrapbook to look at on Netflix of your life, of your childhood growing up. But you
Right.
really
Yeah.
grew up on this show. So
Yeah.
what has that been like? I mean, you were an actor before this show started,
Yeah.
and you
Was for
had
a while.
Broadway and all that. So, like, you knew all of that. But, like,
Sure.
what has it been like growing up on this show?
Um, it's a pretty surreal way to do it for sure. It's
Mhm,
definitely an unorthodox way to grow up. I am super grateful because it's kind of given me a great head start in how approaching this career might operate, which is
mhm,
something that is quite rare to come along at any point, especially go just being in my early 20s and having this much experience under my belt is pretty special. I love it quite a bit. It's a little weird, kind of dealing with normal growing pains in a public platform, and a lot of
yeah.
people, I think, engage because it is so bizarre. I think there are people who
Mhm,
not necessarily watch in spite of watching us grow up, but because they're doing so. I think they find that kind of engaging, and I think that's why people ask about it a lot. People ask about
mm,
what growing up is like in the public eye, and I think because it's inherently a very interesting idea, but, it's
mhm,
I think we're lucky enough that we were in a position where we were very protected throughout that process, and we were able to kind of rise above a bit of a stereotype or a stigma that comes along with children who work in the industry, in which a lot of times historically they become famous for being exploited for a
mhm,
good amount of their time or their money or their we had a good all of us had a really good support system around us. We have parents who were in it for the right reasons. We had a deep love for what we did. Child labor laws are far more in advancement than they have been in
mhm.
in the past. So we had a really good situation going. So now we can just jump into this as adults and not necessarily worry about our safety as much, which is very nice.
Yeah, I mean, and one of the things I mean, I've been watching since the show started, and I'm obviously older than you, but I think, well, not so obvious, but I wanted to I was what I thought was so interesting over those years is, you know, we of course responded to the group of kids that are on this show, or that were on the show initially, and all of you were just so talented and so
Well, thank you.
new and so
Very nice of you.
different. It was so just new, but I remember distinctly a moment on the internet that something went viral of you,
Oh
in that
no.
people, well, in a good way, that people were that people were surprised that you could sing,
Oh,
because I don't think a lot of
oy.
people knew your Broadway background.
A little bit.
And so, like, what is it like that is kind of, I feel like, your secret weapon in a lot of ways
Oh,
that that people don't know. What is that like, so
that's
to have people
fun.
discover that you have this other side of you that is very different from your character on Stranger Things?
Oh, man. It is very different. I think that's why it's so funny that they made me sing in the show. I think it's ridiculous, and it's I'll never live it down. It is, yeah, something special for sure. I've been singing since I could talk.
Mhm.
I've always loved it. I definitely think for a good chunk of my time growing up before I started working on Stranger Things, I think a lot of musical theater kids feel this, that they would consider themselves a singer first because there's not a lot
Mhm.
of opportunity. You can sing anywhere you want to. You can sing in the shower and
Yeah.
you can I mean, I started singing in the car and at church when I went to church as a kid. Um, and so you can just do that and grow, whereas acting is a little bit harder. You have to kind of find it lucky enough of an be lucky enough to have an opportunity to do it outside of an audition room. Uh, so that's kind of what dominated most of my time when I was younger is working in things in which I was singing because that's something I developed at a very young age. And when I started Stranger Things, I stopped singing for a good chunk of time, not because I wanted to, but because I just didn't really have a space to. I wasn't
Mhm.
working in the theater at all at the time, and my voice was changing, so it felt awkward to sing in public, and I didn't really do that, and I kind of broke the habit of continuously doing it, so when I jumped back in around the time of season 3 when they made me do it when they made me do it, for the show,
Well, you
uh
kind of were contracted to.
yes, of course, I was contractually obligated to sing in that show. I also started making a jump back into musical theater, and that was very daunting. It was not
Mhm.
a seamless transition. Very much felt like an uphill battle because I hadn't been working on my voice like I should have, and I didn't sing through my voice change. So I basically
Mhm.
had to start from scratch. So those first shows I came back and did, I was not proud of in retrospect. I was just like, I really think that I felt just like I was treading water out there at best. And
Mhm.
it kind of helped me to hunker down and get back to a better state of things and work on my voice and not just kind of coast by and be like, "Oh, actor first," and I can sometimes sing a little bit, which I
Mhm.
think is probably a phase in which I'm at right now. But I didn't wanna be if I was jumping into musical theater, I didn't wanna ride the coattails, I guess, of my work in Stranger Things and just hope for the best, like, hope that people don't just, like, giggle at me a little because it's some of those stages, there's a lot of pressure. It's some of the best voices in the
Mhm.
world, and to kind of stand up there and at least try to hold your own is not an easy task. So it became a
Mhm.
big focus of my career in the last like 4 or 5 years.
Yeah, and I think that's really exciting for fans to follow you on
Oh,
after
thanks.
Stranger Things.
Well, that's
Well,
nice.
speaking of this last season, where do we find Dustin this season, and what can we expect that you can share? Because I know that contract is
Yeah,
tight.
pretty tight-lipped. Yeah,
Yeah.
right. They've showed enough that I can feel comfy kind of explaining his early arc in the trailer. They showed enough. I'm like, okay, I feel like I'm okay diving
Mhm.
in a tad, but he's not in his usual. He's in a pretty rough spot at the beginning of it, and I think he has been from the end of season 2 into the beginning I mean, not season 2, forgive me, the end of season 4 into the beginning of season
Mhm.
5, whatever the time frame is, I think that's relatively vague, or they might specify and I'm just forgetting, which is also very
Mhm.
possible.
Mhm.
But he's just dealing with an intense loss of a friend
Mhm.
that he's not necessarily equipped with the tools to do so healthfully. And that's a lot of times how kids deal with grief. It's how anybody deals with grief. I think everybody kind of resorts back to their instincts and doesn't really have very good decision making ability when dealing with something like that. And I think, is bringing to life a bit of an aesthetic from his friend who he lost to try to keep him there, which
Mhm.
is, I think, sweet and endearing. But
Mhm.
he's irritable and pissy, and I think kind of dejected, which I think is a
Mhm.
fun not fun, but as an actor, it's a I wanted the grief to feel nuanced when approaching it, in the show, especially because there isn't a whole lot of time to go over it. It's an ensemble show.
Mhm,
Everybody has a lot to contribute. There's only so much time you get to establish how somebody grieves in a very quick amount of time before the ball gets rolling. And I didn't want it to just be sopping in melodrama. I kind of wanted to see a bit of a pessimism that I think a lot of children approach their grief. I think there's a lot more to be said there than just being sad all the time. I think,
mhm.
at least from
Yeah,
what I experienced when I was of about a similar age when I experienced a loss like that, was just how consistently kind of put off you feel, or just
mhm.
not even angry, you just feel pissy all the time, and not fun, and it's something he's experiencing himself.
Yeah, yeah, and I think it also indicates what I think is so fascinating, and what has always been so great about this show is that, you see kid performers, kid actors, and of course, there's many examples of wonderful depth from child actors, but
Yeah,
there's something really special about a show like this where we get to watch these actors grow, not only
yeah,
as adults, but also as actors over the years. And then to
mm,
start from where things started, to see a character and an actor like you handle something as emotional and with such depth in this season. I don't know if you'd be able to do it in the same way that you did the first season when you were a child. And
maybe
so
not. I
there
don't know,
is
kids have a way of kind of being truthful in times where
true,
it wouldn't be expected. They kind of have a way of not really thinking and about,
true.
like, whether or not what they're doing is accurate. They kinda just feel and kind of let it explode out there, and that's why sometimes it's just like, "Oh, shit."
But do you feel like you've grown as an actor and you've been able to show things that how has Stranger Things changed you as an actor?
I think in it's more it'll be I say this a bunch, it'll be easier to find ways that it hasn't impacted me than ways
Mm,
that it has.
mhm,
It's I think it's shaped me completely for the most part. It's given me an opportunity to work on what I do consistently throughout my
mhm,
teenage years, which is a very hard time to work as an actor, to pursue a career in it, because when you are 14, 15, they will usually just have 18 play that
yeah,
age, 18 and look young to play those parts, just so they don't have to deal with child labor laws. They don't have to deal with schooling on set. They
mhm,
don't have to deal with child guardians and time cap limits on how many work hours you can do when you're under the age of 18, which are very valuable rules that made it, possible for us to do it and do it
mhm,
safely. So I highly recommend those for children working, because it's a very
mhm,
odd thing to suggest, because it's children in a workplace, which isn't something that it's usually looked at as. But I digress. I'm going off a little bit there. I It's rare to find anything that gives you the option to kind of practice that much, and
mhm.
that's what's kinda scary, is that you kind of see those earlier seasons, they feel a little bit like practice runs to me. I look back, I'm like, "Ooh,
Yeah,
I don't know if
yeah,
I would definitely do it the same way again," but also you cut yourself slack because you look back and you're like, "I was 13. That's okay.
yeah,
That's
yeah,
what this is for,"
mhm,
and I feel like I've been able to take a lot of tools that I've been gifted over the course of time there to go and try something new and try to grow elsewhere outside of the show throughout this process too. So that's been fun. I don't think I'll be able to reflect fully on how it shaped me as an actor until I start working on stuff afterwards. I'm
mhm,
wondering, like, how hard it will be to consistently let go of this character in the work that I do, because half the time I
yeah,
do new projects. I'm sure people will say the same thing when they see some new ones that I've done, where I look back, I'm like, "Oh, okay, that's very much a Dustinism, and I should have been a lot more mindful about trying to find a disconnect there," but that'll come with time.
yeah, for sure. I mean, I'll be sure to ask you again when I interview for a
Yeah,
Tony
sure.
thing or something years later. So
Mm.
what is so I think what I keep thinking about in this show is now, and I don't want you to share any details, but like in terms of story of plot stuff, but what was that last day of shooting like for you? How were you? And how, looking back on it, like, I
How
mean, what
was it?
was it like? Yeah, how were you?
It was a good day. It was a
Yeah.
really it was a busy one for sure. Everybody who had ever worked on that set seemingly was in the studio that day,
Mhm.
and anybody who was in the cast during that season who wasn't even filming that day was all there, so it's kind of like everybody was there no matter what was gonna be happening because it was the last like, any nobody was gonna miss that, no matter
Yeah.
if even if they had wrapped or had either not been working or had finished their stuff another time. So it was very loud and busy and very odd. It felt more like a graduation than anything. Didn't really feel like it certainly didn't feel like a regular day of working on the show. There was like this tarp that held like this big bunch of balloons, a huge tarp like up over top of the studio that held like seemingly hundreds of balloons and confetti that like we knew inevitably was gonna get like released and dropped over the studio, and
Mhm.
there'd be a toast and a speech and well, many speeches and many toasts and all that, which there was,
Yeah.
and lots of tears and lots of laughs always. It was a good day, but it was a very weird next morning. And we've been
Mhm.
recently asked about what that next day felt like, and that was one of the most eerily quiet, melancholy kind of mornings that
Mhm.
any of us had ever kind of experienced. It's just like the noise, and it's really quick how that turnaround works. Like you finish that day, and it kind of hurts your feelings how quickly everything starts getting turned over, how quickly they
Yeah.
start breaking things down, how quickly
Mhm.
the trucks leave the lot, how quickly it's
Mhm.
kind of like, all right, time to go. There isn't really much of a there's kind of like a sacred period where like, please don't touch anything for a while. But
Mm.
it's a studio where a lot of things film and they have to move on and they have to get going,
Mhm.
which they did, and that was a weird thing to watch.
Yeah. That's so Hollywood. That is just
Yeah.
so Hollywood.
Right. Yeah.
You know?
Hollywood in the great state of Georgia.
Yeah, well, sure, but crying one day and then everything's
And then
gone
it's
the
like, all
next. That
right,
is
there we
just
go.
such
Yeah, that's
it's
it
like
really is. It's sometimes it's so frustrating to me. That's one of my least favorite aspects of it is that you get
Mhm.
so close with the people that you're working with. Stranger Things is kind of a different thing here because there's no world where I'm not friends with these guys for the rest of my
Yeah.
life. There's just been too much time invested in our relationships with each other for that to be the
Mhm.
case. But you work on a movie for a month and you get along really well with the cast, and you spend like the evenings and stuff going out to dinner or being at each other's places and hanging out and getting to know each other really well. And it's like, oh my God, this is great. I can't wait to keep hanging out. And then it wraps and you all fly to wherever you live and everybody lives in
Mhm.
different cities and is like, I don't see them again for
Yeah.
months, if not a year. And that's so frustrating because I do love how easy it
Yeah.
feels to make friends doing this, but how easy it is to lose touch with them as well. It's weird.
Yeah, I don't think that's gonna happen with your lot because of
No, it
the
can't.
it can. I mean, that group text must be
Yeah.
just crazy and
Yeah.
wonderful in lots
It's
of
active.
ways.
Mm.
Yes. Well, my last
There's a
question
number of
I'm sure. My last question for you is, like I was talking before, you have a theater background, you have you have you have something to fall back on, if you will. But
Yes.
but where do you see yourself going next? What are you eager to do? Of course, acting and stuff, but like, what is something that you look forward to moving on from this moment and tackling next?
It's a good question. I haven't really thought about it yet. I think I've been lucky enough not to need to. I've
Hmm.
been really lucky just to be able to enjoy this past decade and understand I've never really I think this answer will change greatly, I'm sure, in the next few months, but I don't think there was much that I really took for granted. I think I spent a good chunk of my time trying to really recognize how special it was and to live very much in the present and not to be like, "Oh, man, but what about after?" Because you really don't know.
Hmm.
And the way that this business works is that, like, we're on a press tour now, the algorithms are forcing our faces onto everybody's phones, so, publicly saying, "I'm sorry to everybody who kind of wants to check their phone at the sight of my face. I appreciate you sticking around. You don't have to, I promise. It
Yeah.
won't hurt my feelings." Um, and then 3 months from now, after the show releases, who knows? It
Hmm.
it will have moved on and settled, and I notice that when I go out and about. I live in New York City, so it's a lot of people, and I'll walk around a ton during this whole process right now during the press tour and it's kind of hard to at the moment because it gets a little bit busy and, people
Hmm.
line up and kind of recognize and ask for pictures and such, which I'm always happy to do. I mean, it's not very often that people are recognized for their work to a level where people want to stop and talk to them about it. So
Mhm.
that's very special, and I really appreciate it.
Yeah.
But then I'm telling you, like months from now, like I'll be able to go and walk through Times Square, and then it won't happen. Which I love that. That's kind of like how the ebb and flow really works, and I personally love that because then you just get to kind of let it go, and then just like fully just do what you want, and that's something I haven't quite figured out yet. I would love to do more theater. Like you said, like there's always acting and but outside of it, what's next? It's I've never really considered anything outside of it. It's what
Mm,
it's been my life and my priority since I was 9 years old.
mhm.
And maybe it's time to I will the thing about it is that you can jump in and work on new projects consistently and have months of buffer time between things and have it look like you haven't stopped working at all, depending on how
Yeah.
things get released or what
Mhm.
it is you decide to work on. But maybe it is one of those times where I spend a few months kind of exploring a new chunk of myself, or maybe experiencing something that I haven't been able to that's quite normal for someone my age. Like maybe if that looks like school,
Mm,
or approaching a new project, something like that. Like I said again, I'm very fortunate to be able to not know and look optimistically
mhm.
rather than full of anxiety, because that's usually how new life phases feel. It's always it's a very anxious process, but I'm in a very lucky position.
Yeah. I think you should go on spring break. I think I
Maybe.
think I think you should just go on a crazy spring break trip. You didn't get to experience that,
Yeah.
I bet. So, like, just go on
Yeah,
a crazy
right.
spring break
Just
trip.
go
Just have some
wild. I'll
fun.
just
Yeah.
drive down to Fort Lauderdale.
Yeah, yes, that's a great city for it. Just go
Yeah.
crazy, get crazy
Go
with senior
go
citizens. I
in.
think that's
Yeah, are
wonderful.
you kidding? Well, I have a lot more in common with them than people may think. We have good conversations.
Same, same. So,
Mhm.
yeah. Well, it was a pleasure chatting with you. Congrats on all your
Likewise.
success,
Thank you.
and it's wonderful to see. So, thank you for taking the time
Thank
to
you very
chat with
much. I
me.
appreciate it.
Yeah.